he tells...
Let's just pause and let Emma put her shoe back on.
No, I'm taking them off. I'm trying to break these boots in and they hurt so bad.
Welcome to Recapping Romantasy, hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Emma.
I am Tabitha.
And I am Maura.
You know, I was thinking we should really get better at doing intros.
Where
We
we
start out with that, and then we immediately jump into it, and it just feels like, all right, down to business, no chit chat.
Girl boss, let's go.
So I didn't do any background information into this book. It's by Jennifer Armentrout, and
Is that how you say her name?
is it? I don't know. I've never heard it.
I've read like 5 of her books and I've never looked up how to say her name.
Jennifer Armentrout?
I just say JLA.
Is that not right?
I think that's how you say it. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe
It's got
you.
Trout in it.
I can't read. We all know. So
Anyway, I've never read any of her other books. I just picked this one up in the library, and the blurb looked, let's just say, like it fits into the theme of this podcast.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I decided to go with it. Does anybody have any notes on the book itself? Or
I took no notes on the book of this book. No, none.
Okay.
Sorry.
oh, on the background? No.
Yeah.
This is the start of a new series for her. I know that her old series, first couple books were well received, and the later ones less so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I read the first 3 books of the From Blood and Ash. I don't think that's what it's called, but from that series, I really liked the first one. The second one changed a lot because I think we're going to do it, so I won't talk about it too much. And then the third one, it was just like, she's very heavy in the world building, like all at once. And so each book was just like way more world building on top of world building on top of world building. And it was just a lot to take. I think the series is almost over because the most recent book came out and a couple people were like recording themselves reading it, and it seems like it's good. There's like smiling, kicking feet, crying. So I feel like I just need to finish it. Oh, she also has another one that I've read 2 out of 3 of them. It also has like angels and like Catholicness in it. Yeah. But no like magical semen. So
Okay.
Oh, well, good. That'll be
Alright.
something.
So for this episode, what we're covering is Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is the first book in the Awakening series.
Oh.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get started.
Yeah. Let's just
Okay.
dive in.
So there are 2 kids in an orphanage, a boy and a girl, and they are woken in the middle of the night by a couple of highborn that come in with the orphanage master, warden. What do you call an orphanage
I couldn't
master?
figure out what that
Headmaster?
person was.
I mean,
That
yeah,
sounds very
maybe.
British.
Is there such a thing as an orphanage master? Is that
I don't know.
Someone has to be in charge, I guess.
Caretaker, principal.
I think they called him a mister in the books.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Also, highborn is spelled Hyhborn. So deal with that.
Are you going to spell all of these words?
Maybe.
Prepare yourself.
The highborn are some kind of non-human race that isn't really explained to us yet, but they are the rulers of this kingdom, and they are looking for seraphs. And our main character, Callista, is somehow special, but everyone is scared of the highborn, so she hides from them when they come in. She's found, but has a moment with a fully grown adult man where they lock eyes, and he clearly knows that something's up with her, but opts to say nothing. Then as he leaves, he casually kills the cruel headmaster or warden or whatever.
Mister.
Yeah.
But he does it because he realizes that like this girl, Callista, was hurt by the Mr.
Yeah,
Headmaster.
he was abusing the kids.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's why he did it, not just out of abject cruelty.
Yeah, shits and giggles.
Yeah, but I didn't really like, I knew it was coming when he showed up and she was like, the highborn, my highborn. I'm like, girl, you're like, what, 10?
Yeah.
It just feels very Renesmee that this old man like had a moment. Well, he's not really old. Like, I don't know, maybe 30. We don't know how old he is, but whatever. It just feels like Renesmee.
It is Renesmee.
I can handle age differences with non-human beings so long as I'm not made to think about it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
I get that being immortal or long-lived, or you're just supposed to only mix with your kind, never fall in love. Like, I get it, but like, don't make me think too hard about the life experiences of a 20-year-old versus a 350-year-old.
Yeah, I can't handle it when, like, I'm fine with them. There's going to be vampires and the love interest is a late teen or whatever, closer to 18 or whatever. But I could have done on without the prologue entirely because it is a pretty Renesmee situation. Like, I hated the time traveler's wife.
Oh.
You know, and that's another one of the situations where it's like, I'm 10 and oh, look, my 30-something-year-old husband's here. And yeah, sure, there's like a weird time element, but that's gross.
That's how I felt with this. Like, I just wish it was like his friend who met her or something. Like, why did it...
We cut to Callista being 22 and living in the mansion of a... Hang on, let me check my notes. Kylestia. Which is a mix of a human and a highborn. This guy's name is Claude. And he keeps her as, what, an employee?
I don't know.
Because she has foresight and some other woo-woo powers.
Pretty much.
An employee?
An employee. Yeah,
Okay.
she's what's called a paramour.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
But that's
Kind
not
of like a courtesan, but also not really.
Like she's sort of like a courtesan geisha type of employee, but you know, paramour is not an employee status, so I don't really.
This was like my biggest gripe with the whole book. Maybe I don't know if it's my only one, but she like explains most everything. The JLA. I'm not calling her Armentrout. It's just gonna make me laugh every time that her name has Trout in it. But anyways, I just could never figure out what the heck Callista's like job is here. She doesn't really have to have sex with him, so she's not like a prostitute or anything or like a sex worker, but she still has to go to these like weird orgy parties.
She must. It's a religious thing.
Yeah. I'm just confused.
Also, how upset am I that there is a race called Kylestia and the main character's name is Callista? This is just like in the Daphobod trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. Where they had two separate and distinct groups of people, both named Devas. Like, I get how that sort of thing happens in real life, but this is a book. You made this up.
Yeah, you could have chosen not to do that. I completely agree about the Deva thing. I was like, but they're all Devas. Except this one that is a Deva.
I never read that book, and I didn't even notice the name thing. So I just called her Liz or Liz. I'm going to call her Liz in my mind because that's what Grady calls her the whole time. So
yeah, Liz. I prefer Liz as well. So
yeah,
let's do Liz.
Too bad.
Yeah, she
I've got
Tabitha and Callista through the whole thing, so too bad for us.
So then her friend Naomi, who's also an employee
/ paramour.
Her name is Imone backwards. Obviously, you guys are not cool in middle school.
So Naomi comes in and asks Callista to see the future of her sister who recently gave birth and is having a hard time. She tells her that her sister will survive this, but holds back that she doesn't see her living until the end of the season. We get some more information about the highborn, like that they can do magic, there are different types apparently, and that they quote-unquote feed on pleasure. So this has basically created a pretty decadent middle class and upper class. Lots of orgies, as we will see.
Yeah, I feel like these highborn people are basically just incubus and succubus, but something about highborn or how they're like explained makes me just assume that they're like angels on earth, which is really opposite of what an angel is, but I don't think any of them have wings, so I don't really know where I got that.
They do not have wings, but there's a pretty, we'll get there with the whole are they angels or not situation.
True, that's right. Oh, also, is this when Naomi explains that they have like climaxes for an hour?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things she was telling Liz is that, the highborn are capable of having climaxes for an hour or hours.
Which, not
sounds
to mention
painful.
it in every single episode, but pig orgasms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pig orgasms. Here we are. We're back with pigs.
Again.
It didn't take long. Here we are again. Yeah, it does sound painful, not like a fun experience.
No, yeah, I know. Chapter note. I mean, I said this at the beginning, but JLA like does a lot of world building at the beginning. How did you feel about this? I felt like she threw out like hundreds of terms with crazy names and just expected you all to remember them. Us all.
I felt better about it in this one than I did in FBAA. As you know,
Mm-hmm.
I DNF'd that one because I was like, what in the hell is happening right now? But with this one, and there was a lot of terminology, but I think she was folding in action and like enough dialogue that I was like absorbing the info a little bit better. So I mean, there were info dumps, but I handled it fairly well in this one.
I basically spent a lot of time thinking, oh man, I wonder if I'm going to have to remember this. Because it was kind of hit or miss what you had to remember.
Yeah. I went through and like in my Kindle, I highlighted it in a different color so I knew I could go back to it later, which I did a few times, but I was prepared.
Callista is at a party hosted by Claude where she's kind of bored. She reassures him that she is fine and tries not to engage with his cousin Heimel, who is mean and gross to her, and there is like the head of the guards. Then another guy, Ramsey, shows up. They talk about political stuff. Apparently, kings in different territories be beefing. You can tell this is when I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to have to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
We also learn about the Iron Knights, which are a group of low-born rebels hoping to depose the high-born rulers.
Also, there's an evil prince. Wonder if he'll be the villain or something else. Suggestive eyebrow wiggles.
She then gets an ominous premonition. Just the words, he's coming.
And look, I was not the only one thinking this is a fun allusion to sex, right? Like,
She leaves the party, changes her clothes, and goes to the stable to visit her horse. She thinks about how she's comfortable but doesn't really belong in this estate. She reminisces about running away from the orphanage with her friend Grady, who works at the estate too, and living rough for years.
I really didn't like the word Grady, the name Grady. It's just like it's one letter away from gravy. Pass.
Gravy's a cute name, though.
For like a cat.
Grady is cute for like a 3-year-old boy, in my opinion. But this is a little where I'm like, this is a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
Why is the name Grady here?
It just feels very modern.
It does. But as we will find out.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. There should be a Michaela then.
Suddenly, her intuition tells her to pay attention, and she overhears 2 people talking about knocking out a highborn and tying him up in a barn nearby. She tries to ignore it, but her intuition tells her that she needs to intervene, so she gets on her horse and tries to find the victim. She goes into the barn and finds the highborn alone, tied to a table with lunai spikes in him, which is the only material that can pierce a highborn skin, and there are buckets collecting his blood.
Gross.
Now, do you think that blade is pronounced lunai, lunay, or lunia?
I'm like gazing longingly at the pronunciation guide that you
It's
printed
not
out for us,
on
and it's
there.
not on it.
I just copied that from the beginning of her book,
Yeah,
and
no,
that
you-
word was not included.
I think I pronounced it Lune.
I pronounced it Lunea.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it right. I'm just, that's...
No,
what
I did lunai because I was just doing the...
Okay.
PA
So
thing,
which
so
way
yeah.
are
This
we
is
going to go?
this is my gripe with people making up words, and
You know, I think I'm going to say lunia.
oh, you do what you need.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna make up words, follow like I don't know, just one
Well, you're right.
phonetic alphabet. Like
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the thing,
not
is
this.
no matter what word you use, you are writing the book in English.
Right, and like English has like, oh my god, I could go into this forever. I hate English. It's a gross, like Frankenstein language. But it has like Germanic based words, it has Greek words, it has Latin based words, it has everything. And like if you're using the Latin alphabet, just like use Latin phonetics. Like they're pretty similar across like Italian, English, and French, and even linguists created this like Latin based language. What is it called?
You talked about Esperanto.
I am talking about Esperanto, and it takes all of like just use Esperanto. Like if you read a word in Esperanto, like you know how to pronounce it because it makes sense because smart linguists made it. And like this Lune, Lunae, has like 5 different pronunciations because we have no idea if it's Latin based or not. I'm done.
All right. She gets a better look at this guy's face and realizes that he is the guy who showed up to the orphanage all those years back and killed the headmaster.
Oh my god, who'd have guessed it?
Oh my gosh.
So she removes the spikes from his body and he pretty much immediately tackles her. He starts to strangle her and she tries to explain that she was there to free him because she overheard the people talking about killing him.
Is this just choking? But like when you're being strangled, aren't you like not supposed to be able to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I guess he just wasn't doing a good job.
Well, he was weak because he has the bone blades in his body or whatever.
So apparently the people that did this to him found him at a tavern in the city and drugged him. He lets her go, mostly because he's seriously wounded. But then one of the dudes who kidnapped him comes in. Callista tries to head him off. They scuffle and she gets a bloody nose. The highborn rises out of the dark, grabs the guy, and kills him. He tells her that he needs her help, that the Lunia spikes are poisoning him, and apparently water will help with that. So he is basically saying, oh no, I need to strip down and bathe my glistening muscles.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. Of course he has to be clean.
So she takes him to the blacksmith's house. We know from a previous conversation that the blacksmith is out for the night. He punches the door open. She readies the shower for him because in this world of blacksmiths and gas lighting, there is efficient hot water plumbing.
I thought the lighting was electric.
It is technically electric, I think, because there's evidence of an electrical grid. And like running water is sort of a thing in the ancient world. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be super weird about that. But the fact that they have incandescent light bulbs maybe, or like LED lighting, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, to be honest, I ignored this until Tabitha texted us
They were
all,
like-
and she's like, how do you have a blacksmith and electricity?
Yeah, like there's like light switches that they mentioned.
Yeah, that's, yes.
So,
So I went back to this chapter, and what it says is, quote, I found a lamp near the bed and turned it on. The buttery light hit the space, and I crossed the chamber, end quote. But then, as she's taking off his boots, he uses magic to light a candle on the nightstand, and she takes that candle into the room with the shower, and that's what they bathe under. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
with the lights.
because candles in the bathrooms are more romantic and
Duh.
lamps in bedrooms are more efficient.
Also,
Therefore,
I do think the word
Agreed.
lamp is deliberately vague because you can turn on like piped in gas like that too.
That's true.
He is still unstable on his feet, so she strips him and then herself to get into the shower with him.
I know she does this for the plot, but like she absolutely could have got in like with her clothes on. But then I remember this place is like weirdly fine with orgy parties, so maybe the whole world is just cool with nudity and I'm just like a hella prude.
no, I don't think you're hella prude.
Okay,
Because I mean,
thanks.
I struggled here with this sort of situation, this thought process of hers, because it's like since the book doesn't really have any super firm stance on whether or not everyone is fine with leaping into sexual situations, I was like, wait, what is her stance on leaping into sexual situations? Apparently it's okay, she's
Yeah.
fine with it. I'm like, okay, that's fine if that's what you want, but also I don't know, since she's just like, I don't like having sex with random strangers.
But I'll be naked with random strangers.
Yeah, but here's a naked stranger that I'm going to be naked with because obs. I don't like.
And it's not even like it's winter, so if she's like wet in her clothes outside, she's gonna get hypothermia. It's just I don't want to get my clothes. I mean, who likes walking around in wet clothes? But
Around this time, he calls her what seems to be a pet name, Nale. Now, Nale is spelled Na'Laa. So Nala is what it looks like, but no, it's Nale.
You're so upset.
I am. I said Nala the whole time.
She asks about it, and he says it's a word in his language, which is Enochian. And here's where I could no longer pretend that I didn't know these guys were angels, goddammit.
I read that word as echinacea. Even though it's not spelled like it at all. Also, he goes on throughout this book to like describe what the word Nale means, and it has like 7 different meanings, and it doesn't even make sense. Like they're all vastly different, but they're all nouns. So I just told myself that this is like a weird tonal language, and we just don't know about it.
Fair.
Thanks.
He tells her about all of his body parts and fluids that she could have sold for a profit, yes, including his cum. Apparently, highborn cum is an aphrodisiac to humans. Not like metaphorically, literally.
Also, important detail: he is 6'8" tall, which I am sorry is too tall. Hot take, perhaps, but no, that's just too tall. It's just too tall.
No, and she's not described as like, well, really, I don't think she's described a lot at all. I think I know she has brown hair and brown eyes, but like she's not described as like minuscule like all the other books. Her body's like not even talked about.
True. I mean, other than certain parts of her head.
Oh, right. Yeah, duh. Also, another hot take. I wish like cum in like as in semen would just have been spelled C-U-M in this book. I know it's very 14-year-old boy of me, but I don't know. It just feels more crass when it's spelled C-U-M. And like, why are we trying to dress up like it's a respectable word? Just use the word semen if you're being respectable.
So if that were to happen and it was C-U-M, that would have taken me back to my elementary 1 Latin days. And
Well, then you would have said coom.
yeah, so
He's going to sell his coom.
yeah, and that was one of the things that my professor at the time was just like, listen, if you people say coom, come. We're gonna have like a throwdown like fit here. And I was just like, I was listening to this conversation and thinking to myself, maybe I should take more of these classes. Also, maybe I should major in this. And did I? Yes I did. So that
You majored in Latin?
I majored in classics, which made me take like 5 semesters of Latin.
Got it.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of Latin. I mean, as someone who basically majored in French.
Well, considering the things that we had to like study in classics, yeah.
She also notices that she can't read him through touch like she can with humans. Then he's like, "You want to feel me up a little bit?" And she's like, "For sure." It dawns on her around this time that he must be the one causing her to feel this lust with his magic. So she backs away, dries off, and gets dressed. He does the same, almost completely healed now. He asks her if she understands how highborn feed on pleasure. She says kinda. He says that she enjoyed helping him and he enjoyed being helped, so that technically counted as feeding. He also tells her that if she hadn't rescued him, he would have freed himself and rampaged, killing many more people. It's very cool, just what a girl likes in a man. You're the only one keeping me from a spree, baby.
I roll my eyes every time like this shit comes up in books, but I gobble it up. Like if some idiot told me this in real life, I'd be like, you need to go get a therapist. Don't talk to me. But in a book, like, tell me more. Tell me how I'm the only one keeping you from going crazy. Makes me feel special.
No, I don't want people to think about me when I'm not around.
Do not perceive me.
Mm-hmm. On that note, he kisses her to thank her for saving him, and several of her small abrasions heal. Yes, his kisses heal.
Cute, but also, like, what if you had cancer and this person kissed you? Like, would you be healed? Or are we talking full makeout section?
Oh, maybe it has to be, like, on the surface.
Yeah.
So, like, unless they, like, spit down your throat, it won't cure your cancer. So then his friend arrives and he leaves. The next day, she's in her garden thinking about the night before when Grady, her friend, shows up and tells her that the blacksmith's barn and the tavern that the highborn was drugged in burned down overnight. Grady is revealed to be a class warrior looking up to the Iron Knights. Callista tells him to shush before he gets executed. Is Callista a class traitor?
Grady would have absolutely voted for Bernie.
Yeah, for sure.
So Grady can tell that something is up, so she admits the entire story to him.
Yeah, so okay, this is kind of refreshing that Liz trusts him with her secrets. Like literally every other book would have been, nah, I can't burden him with this knowledge, so I will keep this secret until keeping the secret causes a tragedy, and then I will tell everyone and apologize. So I really like the fact that she just tells him up front here. I was like, yes, finally.
This
is what would happen.
We don't have to read Iron Flame again, basically.
Right.
I absolutely agree. As you know, I hated Iron Flame basically for that reason. And I tell my friends every single thing that's ever happened to me. Like if I made out with an almost 7-foot hunk in a shower, I'd be writing a short story in our group chat about every detail that happened. One time a guy hugged me like real nice, and I immediately texted my friends on the way home. I was like, listen to this. And they're like, Emma, go to bed.
Yeah, if I get a crazy piece of information, I am like barely out of that situation before I'm texting people about it. I really hate the trope of like keeping secrets from people who could benefit from the information.
Right.
So after that, she goes to Claude and tells him that 2 of his guards kidnapped a highborn to harvest for bone magic. He's like, oh fuck, I hope the ruler of Primavera doesn't think we're into that. Yeah, it's not Primavera.
That's how I read it every time.
Or Primavera, which is how I was reading it.
I complain
it's Primavera.
I complain about not having a pronunciation guide, but when I read shit, I just pronounce it however I want. Like,
that's what I usually do, unless I have reason to like actually like buckle down and figure out how to pronounce it. So Primavera is a neighboring city kingdom that seems to be just highborn.
Oh, I don't have the book anymore. There's a map in the beginning of the book.
And they talk about being able to like see it on the horizon.
Oh.
He asks her if she is happy here at the mansion, and Callista says yes, but she thinks he seems a little off. Next chapter, Callista attends an orgy. Grady is there too as a guard, and it is awkward.
Awkward because he's like known her since she was a child, not because he's into her, and they're strictly platonic friends.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I thought of them as like adopted siblings, but like they've adopted each other.
Some of the people there are masked, and one of the masked guys tries putting the moves on her. She reads his mind and freaks him out by saying something like, I have no interest in choking on your cock tonight or any other night, Gregory.
I think she's so funny. Like, she's very self-assured for a mind-reading orphan prostitute, but she made me laugh a lot in this book.
Yeah, same. I really enjoyed her character.
Naomi comes and sits beside her and fondles her for a bit. They talk about how odd Claude is acting, and Naomi kind of fingers her.
I will accept this as a partial fingering. Like, I think once you get close enough to the clitoris and then get all vague about it, anything could have happened. So I'm just like, this is like fingering number 0.5. Yeah.
I reread this because I was like, how close to the clit does she get?
I did the exact same thing.
I did it yesterday. I was like, I need to know for sure. It's definitely some over the labia action.
I feel like the author is like making Callista react as though she's like getting the bits touched, and then she's like, but her hand was on her stomach, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
I know. I was like,
how sensitive is she?
Yes. Where's his hand placed? There's like a slit in her dress, which doesn't make sense because like she at one point Naomi's hand is like in the slit, but it's like on her thigh. But then also she's like petting her stomach, and then same hand, other hand is like plucking a nipple, and I'm like, what's going on?
There was one point when I thought like, the way they described it, the way Callista was reacting, I'm like, oh, she's got her whole fist in there. But then they were like, and then her hand moved into the slit. And I'm like, oh, so she's not even close.
No.
It was an oddly written passage.
Yeah, that girl's hand was literally everywhere.
She had 11 hands.
Yeah, that's the only thing that could have happened.
Truly,
she just has too many hands.
I know, and we already talked about this. I don't understand their friendship, but mostly I don't understand it because I don't get how like their job works.
Yeah, it's really difficult to understand, especially Naomi, because at one point she was talking about how people are judging her in her profession or whatever, and then she's like, "Well, I like to fuck and I like to be fucked, so this is my personal choice." So I'm like, "Okay, so are you a prostitute? What's going on?"
Maybe, and it seems like she has more sex with Claude than Callista does.
Yes.
Yeah. But I can't tell if that's just like she likes it or if it's like requested. Like I feel like Claus has like a sister wives clause. His name is Claude.
The whole thing is really strange because we understand why there's so much sex happening because it's important for the highborn to feed from the pleasure.
Yeah, and
we don't know how like the lowborn, the humans, feel about it as much.
Yeah,
which I believe I mentioned later. I'm just like, I have no idea how Callista feels about this.
Yeah, no, you do.
She leaves the party and she goes to bed without participating in the orgy other than the almost fingering, but she does masturbate.
So, okay, this is definite fingering. So, yeah, I'm going to call this fingering number 1.5.
I love that you keep track.
I did. I kept track the entire book.
It does happen a lot.
Yeah, we can look forward to that.
She sees some balls of light that just like happen this time of the year, and she follows these balls and her intuition into the garden and happens upon a highborn and her highborn arguing. He's like, oh, hi, then stabs the other guy in the chest with a Lundia blade, and that guy erupts into golden flames. Side note, aren't flames usually golden? Like, why does she specify that?
I don't know.
They usually are golden.
Maybe she's good at painting or something. We'll find out later.
Then another highborn grabs Callista from behind and holds her. This is the Muriel that Callista told him was named and setting him up. And Muriel is a dude, FYI.
Yeah, but it's an eel ending, so...
Yeah,
obviously.
Most of the angels have IEL ends to their names.
During this scene, Muriel says, I'm warning you. You attack me and I'll kill her. And her highborn is like, okay, whatever. And I laughed at this because Liz literally says to herself, man, I wish I didn't masturbate to you last night. Like, self-awareness.
They snipe about some political shit, and Muriel starts to leave with Callista as a captive. Her highborn, whose name we still don't know, attacks and whips her into the dirt where she passes out.
Like, literally throws her.
Yeah, throws her. In semi-consciousness, she is lightly fondled, but in, like, a nice way.
She also yells at him for injuring her, like, and he just says, sorry, your body was collateral, basically. And I'm never one to diagnose characters like with any sort of mental illness or any sort of anything. And I know it kind of gets explained at the end why he's written this way, but I feel like she was trying to write him as like how people write people with autism, like just basically like baby robots don't understand like metaphors, don't understand like empathy. Did anyone else get this vibe or just me?
No, and I think there's a reason for why she was doing that because like when we get down to it, he's basically a tree with free will and a penis. So
That's
like yeah, and I want to like just say like this isn't like how autistic people act. It's just how certain people
not
do.
at all.
can accidentally write them as this way, and sometimes it's sloppy writing, but yeah.
I kept thinking of him as the X-Men character Shatterstar, who is technically an alien who doesn't really know about human emotions until he comes to Earth and experiences them. And I'm not going to say any more about that because that is some dork-ass shit.
Well, I was going to say that he kind of like reminds me of how Sheldon was written in like The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like that's what I mean. Like that sort of like, maybe this is like autistic coded, but like in the worst way.
Yes.
That's,
Sure, I can see that for sure.
She comes to alone with her highborn. They banter for an entire chapter, and he finally shares his name, Thorn. Thorn with an E on the end, which, based on the pronunciation guide for this book, maybe his name's Thorny.
Oh, God, I hope
or
so.
Thornay.
Thornay. I love that.
They flirt and snipe, but never mention they met when... She never mentions that they met when she was a kid. He doesn't seem to remember her, but he is obviously interested in her. Suddenly, the air feels spooky, and he tells her to go home. Oh, also, those glowing orbs that she followed are sentient plant souls.
Yeah, he has like a Pocahontas moment because he's like, I can feel that they have souls.
The next day, her boss, Claude, is freaked out in a conversation with Heimel and a magistrate when he is told that 5 to 7 of his guards were killed in an altercation with a Nymir. Sorry, I had to look at the pronunciation guide again. Killed in an altercation with a Nymir the night before. Nymirs are giant flying highborn with eagle bodies and human heads. The vibe is that they were after something else, and that something else killed them.
Ooh, I wonder what they could have been after.
When alone, her and Grady have a conversation about Claude's increasing temper, and she tries to mother him a bit. He tells her not to go into the gardens. She keeps going to the gardens because she wants to see her boy. One night, she is told to report to Claude, who is crazy stoned, and then sends her to entertain/interrogate a visitor from the royal court. She bathes and dresses and is given a container of some drug to avoid sexual assault. It's like something they can like slip to people who might assault them.
I think it's basically something that like they can immediately
like put them to sleep.
Yeah.
Also very important, the sleepy time tea does not work on the highborn.
So she goes into a dark room and is quickly grabbed by someone. Of course it's Thorn. He continues to hold her from behind while they talk, and I don't know why this bothered me, but he has one arm between her breasts from behind. I had to pause and think about this angle because as somebody with big boobs, I can only I guess he's much bigger than her. I can only imagine it in like a really awkward way where you either have to like lift the boob up and slip your arm underneath or like kind of crush it in the crook of your arm. I don't know. It just seemed uncomfortable to me.
I mean, he is so tall that like...
He's got to have huge arms.
Yeah, depending on where she hits on his chest, that would either be impossible or he'd have to be hunched over.
We did talk about this, and I explained that I have wide set boobs.
I'm not discussing what my boobs look like on this podcast. I refuse to do it.
They're not like necessarily small. Like I would say they're like a normal medium shape or size, but they just like no matter what bra I wear, unless I'm like squishing them down for exercise, I never have a like cleavage ever. Like it doesn't matter what they're in. So when you came in and we're like talking about this, and I was like, I feel like I could picture this happening because you can easily fit an arm between my ladies. They never touch. But sometimes I just wish I had those little like posable wooden dolls that artists have, and I could just like move them as they describe, because sometimes, especially during sex scenes, people have like definitely not acted this out or thought it out with anything. And I'm like, in this position, even if this person is 7 feet tall, that other person is like 4 feet tall, because you know they're always like so small. There's no way these two people could be making out if they're in this position, or there's no way this arm could be over here and over here. Like,
yeah, I think this scene is setting up subsequent scenes in this book that I also struggled to picture what this actually looked like.
Yeah.
So as he's holding her, he brings up his cum again and insists on threatening her again. He is so hot that Callista forgets how to be charming, which is arguably her job. They banter, he strips and gets into the tub, and she bathes him.
I found their banter like quite fun compared to some of the other books we've read. Like if I was going to rank all of the banter that we've read so far, I'd say top, Liz and Thorn, then Feyre and Rhys, Violet and Satan, who might just almost be last because I'm mad at them for all the bullshit they put me through in that last book. And then absolutely last is Feyre and Tamlin, but I don't think they even talk to each other at all.
No, that's the correct ranking.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
for sure.
I honestly think that this book is a lot better written than those other books, so their banter doesn't make me feel like I'm dying a slow death.
It classifies as actual banter.
Yeah, it does.
In their conversation, he reveals that he is the Prince of Vitrus, the kingdom to the far north that is known to have a very dangerous and unpredictable king. She gives him the slowest bath ever. There's a lot of back and forth of her deciding whether or not she wants to get into the tub because is this part of her job or does she actually want to?
I mean, she already got naked and bathed with him once. Like, what's one more time?
Okay, so I think I'm like starting to like hone in on what her issue is this entire book.
Yeah,
And that
tell
is
us.
like, is this part of her job or does she actually want to?
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be like a lot of her issue. Like, does she or does she not do something? It's just like, do I have to do this because Claude told me I have to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I actually want to do this because I'm actually attracted to this dude?
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're meant to come out thinking, though.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's really... I don't think it's that deep, but...
I'm going to talk about very complicated issues of consent, but refuse to explain any of it. So she eventually strips, gets on his lap in the tub, and they fondle each other. He's got some kind of weird dick. Here's the quote about it. The flesh there was smooth, yet gently ridged. Towards the base, he was thicker and rounder, almost as if the flesh was more ... round there. So in my opinion, either he has a knot or she's never seen testicles before.
Okay, number one, it's definitely ribbed for her pleasure. And I definitely think this is alluding to him have a knot. And I, like a crazy person, went through and searched in my Kindle how many times I said knot and then read all of the quotes that have to do with his penis. And he definitely has a knot.
I just want to say that this is like a hilarious sentence just generally because he's thicker and rounder, almost if he's more round. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yes.
he's round and also round.
Yes, Jennifer, yes.
This reminds me of the line in Fifth Wing when Violet is describing the like castle or something she wakes up in, like basically Xaden's house, and she's like, there's so many stairs, almost 4 staircases. No, 5 staircases. And I'm like, what a ridiculous way to describe this.
It's so big
God.
via staircase. Like,
Yeah.
Also,
It's almost tall. Like,
listeners, if you don't know what a knot is, I'm not going to explain it to you.
I'll get to later.
Just for now, Google omegaverse.
Common knot.
Yeah, it's something on the dick.
KNOT.
All right, so then he accuses her of lying, just like generally, like about her motive and who she is and so on and so forth. There's more talking and fondling. She likes that she can't inadvertently read his mind or his intent like she can with other humans. And then they hand job and finger each other to orgasm.
if we're keeping count at home, that's fingering number 2.5.
Also, this is where the knot was confirmed for me, because as they are fondling each other, it says, quote, tightening my grip on his cock, just above that knot of flesh. He was even harder there than the rest of his body. And that's page 174, in case you want to go back and read it.
Yeah, Jennifer knows what she's doing. Then he kind of threatens her again, basically saying, why were you sent to my room? No lying this time. Oh, and apparently when highborn feed on pleasure, they glow, heat up, and vibrate.
I
which
forgot
is
about that
adorable.
part.
Naturally they do. God.
I forgot about that.
She admits that she was made to come there by the Baron, and this seems to bother him, which, like, why the hell else would she be there? Then he kind of makes like he's reaching for her neck. She tenses, and he touches her hair, then is like, why does she think that I would hurt her after all this?
Oh,
But
I
like
don't
he
know.
has hurt her. He accidentally threw her too hard earlier. And this sounds so much like a guy who like fakes a punch and then gets upset at you for flinching.
Yeah.
He tells her that he's there to talk to the Baron about the Iron Knights, then invites her to spend the night with him for sleep, and she turns him down.
This is like my favorite trope. In a moment of vulnerability, the love interest asks if the other would spend the night. Like, swoon. It just will never not be cute. It's absolutely so stupid, but maybe it's just because I have like the absolute worst like ass morning breath ever, and the thought of giving someone like the opportunity to judge me for it is just like me at my most vulnerable. I don't know.
See, I like it when they do that and then they wake up in the morning, they're all
And they're
tangled up
cuddling.
together. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Totally agree. We were robbed.
She explains everything that happened to Grady, and he reaffirms his desire to get out from under the rule of the Highborn and the
Who knows?
Kylestia by joining the Iron Knights. Callista is pretty meh about this. She tells him that this highborn is the one from when they were kids, and he says that he never heard the guy ask her if the headmaster hit her. I feel like this is going to be relevant later, but then I don't think it really was.
No, I don't think it really was relevant.
I don't know what that was about. I thought they were going to end up being able to talk to each other psychically, because God knows that happens in every other book we've read so far.
Yeah.
But no.
I think maybe it will be later. But that's just because I have a crazy theory that I'm going to explain, like, towards the end. Like, maybe at the end, and putting all the pieces together. But I also feel like that It's Always Sunny meme, where it's, like, the short guy, Charlie, in front of that wall, and he's, like, cracked out with, like, the red line strings going everywhere.
So next morning, she has a meeting with Claude and Heimel to tell them what happened. After the Baron dismisses Heimel, he asks her for more details and gropes her a bit. Like, did he hurt you in your boobs? When she leaves, Heimel is shitty to her, as usual, calling her a whore, twisting her wrist and whatnot. Back in her chambers, she suspects that Claude knows more than he's saying, both about the issue at hand and her powers. Suddenly, Thorn is there. This man sits in the shadows a lot. And here's a quote from that scene. In the shadows, the starbursts in his eyes brightened. What the fuck does that look like?
Okay, important to note. This man has got some crazy shifting blue, green, brown, swirly eyes, and I mean that when I say that. They swirl.
Yeah. I pictured it like when you drop food coloring into water.
That sounds like something you should get checked out by a doctor.
Yeah. I also, just in reading that, when you read that quote, it brought something to me. I feel like their eyes, maybe they're like, just to jump on your nerdy shit, are like tiefling eyes. You know how they like glow? Mm-hmm. So like if he's in the shadow,
well,
and
we already
it's
know
like,
he glows and vibrates.
True, but like maybe his eyes always glow. Also, I was paying so much attention to what color his eyes were at certain parts of the book.
Did you chart it? Did you chart this?
No, because that felt way too crazy. But I did like, I was like, oh, they're blue in this moment. They're blue in this moment. Oh, and then she kept talking about like having little specks of white in there. And I was like, maybe this means something. Nah, I couldn't figure anything out. So
he hassles her some more about whether or not Claude treats her well, and is particularly upset by the bruises on her wrist from Heimel. She doesn't tell him where they are from. He tells her he is a Dominion. That is my best guess as to how to say that, because it's not in the pronunciation guide. It's spelled Deminyen. First time I read it, I thought it was something like demon, and then I sounded it out like a child, and I was like, it sounds like Dominion.
I think I'm dyslexic because I said Dominion the whole time in my head.
I think that's right, though.
Is it?
Is,
oh,
yeah.
No. I said Demien. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Dominion is what I said.
So he tells her he is a Dominion, which are creatures that cannot feel compassion, so he's puzzled as to why he cares for her. After he's gone, she's watching her face and sees that her eyes very briefly change color.
From brown to blue. And this is the only time the eye color matters.
Heimel takes her to get bathed and dressed and threatens Grady along the way. They have an awkward dinner with Claude, Heimel, Thorn, and his two associates.
His best friends.
His pals.
Come on now, best friends.
Mates.
It's a good time, boys. Claude is already mostly drunk, and when Callista pushes through the wall in their mind, she can read what the two highborn that are with the prince think. They basically think that he's like drunk and useless.
Yeah.
Thorn is bothered when the Baron calls Callista pet.
Me too. It's gross. I thought like at the beginning when they introduced Heimel, Claude called her pet, and I misread it and thought it was Heimel until he kept saying pet, and I was like, ugh, yucky.
Here's a small thing that I have to admit. Heimel, every time I read that, I thought to myself, Hymen, and I did not stop.
I love that. I did not have that thought once, but that's amazing.
I thought of a very like dorky looking German guy with a bowl cut every time.
Oh yeah, he definitely looked like that too. But also in my head, Hymen.
I think he has a mustache. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe bald with a mustache, you know?
And those little like tiny glasses.
Yes. Yeah.
They continue a very awkward dinner with the three highborn sharing news of an alliance between the Iron Knights and a highborn princess that potentially threatens Archwood, which is the place we're currently in, Claude's place that he runs. Claude is tactless and kind of belligerent, so Callista sits on his lap and tries to smooth out his tone to them.
I think Claude and Liz like have had sex before, but the fact that everyone here is just fine with this reminds me of when that one couple in high school, like at a party, just is sitting on each other's lap and everyone is just ignoring it because like, what do you say? Like, we all know it's awkward. They're like pretending that this isn't awkward, but we just keep making eyes at each other like, what the fuck are they doing? And they
think
just
that
keep doing it.
I think that must be what it's like for humans in this world with Highborn and Kylestia, where it's just constantly like being at a party with horny teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is constantly being at a party with horny teenagers.
Maybe that's
and
what
the
like
parents
the
aren't home.
Yeah, the lowborn probably think that way,
Yeah.
and then like the middle class, upper class are like also horny teenagers.
Thorn is very tense and unhappy with how Claude is treating her. The Highborn are offering an army to protect Archwood, and the Baron is pouting that it isn't a bigger army. Everyone leaves the dining room but Claude, Callista, and Thorn. While they talk politics and muse on why the Highborn princess is attempting to seize power, Claude gropes Callista more and more obscenely, to the point that she realizes it is a show for Thorn. Eventually, the Baron tells her to go to Thorn on the other side of the table. She sits on his lap, where he gets right to business and starts fingering her, like immediately. She's barely down there. As they talk, she orgasms, and Thorn tells Claude he wants Callista for the duration of his time at the manor. Also, he licks his fingers that were inside of her and calls it dessert, which is obnoxious.
Right, here I am to say that this is fingering number 3.5 and number 4.5 back to back.
Yep, right after another.
Yep.
Also, you missed a very important distinction. Claude does it for show, but Thorn very clearly doesn't let Claude watch, and he covers Callista's mouth when she orgasms because it's only for him.
Well, yeah, when Claude does it, it's for show. When Thorn does it, it's for reals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
super
more
classy.
It's
It's
more
so classy.
romantic
It's
when
so
he
classy.
does it.
I believe this is when I decided to get into the issue of
Do it.
consent. So it's kind of, I feel like it's all over the place. We're told over and over that Callista's here of her own free will and she likes her life. But when prompted by like Grady, there seems to be this edge that she doesn't like it and does sometimes feel used. But then she keeps insisting that whenever she is with Thorn, oh, if it was anyone else, I would totally refuse in this situation and totally wouldn't get in trouble for it. There's this constant insistence that she could choose not to have sex with anyone at all and be totally safe. She just wants to do it with Thorn. I can't tell if this is deliberately complicated or if the author is just trying to make us more comfortable with what is an inherently uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, like, you know, like I said, I feel like in this world, sex is seen by a great many as no big deal, but also there's shame associated with, otherwise people wouldn't wear masks at orgies. Callista herself implies that she's fine with sex for sex sake and doesn't do it because when she touches people, she sees things she doesn't want to see, which is why she likes the highborn dude. And the world itself is not totally okay with sex for sex's sakes. I mean, because Naomi was like, I like to fuck and be fucked. Like, how dare you tell me otherwise? And I think that Callista, I mean, she wants to be with Thorn because she can't hear his thoughts when she touches him, which is a novelty for her. And she can have her sexy times without the consequences. She wants to fuck. She just doesn't want to be given to a man to fuck that man by another man. And that's her issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more that she doesn't want sex to be like used as a way to gain power, and then her, in that case, being used to gain power. Like either that's like as an excuse for Claude to show off his wealth and services, which is like what happens when she's waffling with, should I like bathe with Thorn or should I not bathe with Thorn? Or using sex as like a way to gain information through her powers. I think that's where she gets icky about it. At least for me, I think some of this is this is how the society treats sex, nudity, consent, etc. explanation would have been nice, because in the modern world that we live in, it is like such a big conversation, I think, hopefully for people. But maybe it's like, well, you're at this orgy party and it's just like your consent is assumed because you're here. But also, like, I've never been to an orgy, so I don't even know if that's like good orgy etiquette or not.
I've heard that sometimes at orgies you can have like wristbands or something, like marks on your hand that show like what you're into and what you're not into. I don't know if that's some like rainbow party bullshit.
Like the red, green, yellow parties.
I don't know how true that is, but it seems like a practical way to handle it.
What if like you get sweaty or like someone comes on your hand and it gets washed off? You have to go back and like get it remarked.
Yeah. Like when you do need to get back into an amusement park.
Oh God. Maybe they have fast passes to this.
Or maybe they use the markers that bars always use. I always have like an X on my hand for weeks. I bathe regularly. Every other day.
So yeah, Thorn asks to have her for his duration there. She gets mad. She immediately jumps off his lap. She feels like she's being forced, but she kind of is, but also kind of isn't. Again, it's like a weird consent issue.
I think like at this point, it's because she realized that Claude was actually doing it to show off. Like, she likes me more than you. Or not Claude, I'm sorry. Because she realized Thorne was doing this to like show off to Claude that like she enjoys Thorne more than Claude. And it was like a weird power move. But also, I got so tripped up. I thought when he was like, I want to stay with her. She's going to be with me for my stay, that he was going to be there for like months. And he's gone in like 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, so really, what is the big deal?
Yeah.
Just spend the 2 days and
Like a long weekend.
yeah. Yeah.
Callista and Claude talk about it. He tries to get her to admit who bruised her, and she still won't. He tells her he knows she is only here because it is safe and comfortable, and basically, you know, she should make the best of being with the prince. She tells all of these events to Naomi, and that Claude seemed almost relieved that Thorne wanted her. One of the other highborn that was at this party, Bastian, comes to fetch her, and she refuses, saying she doesn't feel well. He's like, sure. She drifts around her room, worrying what her city will do if they are attacked. Suddenly, Thorne is there. She throws a glass at him because why not at this point? He stops it and it explodes midair.
And she says, the glass slipped from my fingers. And he says, slipped all the way across the room. Like,
See, banter. This is
that's what I
great
mean.
banter.
It's just good banter.
Yeah. So they continue to banter. He asks if she is going to honor their arrangement, and she says there is no arrangement to honor. He picks her up like a sack of potatoes and carries her to his chambers. They talk more. He tells her that he didn't like to see Claude touching her. She tries to explain consent to him, that just because he can tell she wants to have sex with him doesn't mean that he shouldn't still ask her, which is oof.
Yeah. But again, he's like some weird robot baby here, so he doesn't understand humans and their emotions and whatever.
He alludes that the royal courts are awful, quote, full of ruin and wrath. The name of the book. And she tells him she was an orphan.
I saw on Reddit, I don't know if it was before or after I read the book, but at least the line ruin and wrath or fall of ruin and wrath is also in another one of J.L. Armentrout's books. So it was like a very long post and I only skimmed a little bit, but they seem to think that maybe everything is going to be connected, at least within that book series and this book series, but I didn't read it because I think I was still mid this read and I didn't want any spoilers. So we'll see.
the phrase, like, if you reverse it, the phrase wrath and ruin is kind of a long-standing, well-used phrase in fantasy. Like in The Lord of the Rings, there's a whole song that the Rohirrim sing that uses the phrase now for wrath, now for ruin.
I've never read all those books, but I'm like obsessed with the movies.
I believe they say it in the movie too. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn.
I'm a fake fan, okay?
Actually, in the movie they might say in Red Nightfall. This isn't important.
No, keep calling me out, please.
He admits that the king was more interested in destroying Archwood and completely rebuilding than in trying to defend it. We get the backstory in this chapter. Okay. So these highborn dominions are ancient, and many existed in the previous version of the world before the revelations happened. Yes, friend, the craziest book of the Bible was accurate, and they are 100% angels, and this is 100% earth. He even says we have been called many names, fair folk, elementals, etc. But let's be for real, they're angels.
Yeah, this is where the book completely jumped the shark for me. Like, climate change caused revelations. And I mean, truly the most crazy climate change consequences book I have ever read, and I've read a bunch at this point. So I'm like, hey, this is a new one.
I think I've read none. So
I've read a bunch where, like, you know, like diseases come from like the melting of the ice and things like that. But this is one of them. Like, okay, awesome.
I found it like a little funny, like in a crazy sense, like it in a crazy way. It made sense. It was also before this part that Tabitha pointed out that they have blacksmiths and electricity. And so, like, in the back of my mind, getting up to this point, I was like, how are they going to explain it? Like, what sort of, like, weird way are they going to use to explain it? Is it going to be some weird, like, I don't know? And then this all happened, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. Fine.
So these ancients, long ago, took a long slate. And when they woke up, humans had fucked up the world and had an apocalypse. It was then remade in the manner that we see now with the highborn in charge, since, we couldn't be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also where he gets into how he's made, right? Or they are made.
Yeah.
'Cause they're
It's like here a couple chapters after it's around
because
this part.
that whole situation is just like I think we're in the middle of a monster romance now. And that's a hot take maybe, but I'm not going to yield.
No,
that,
don't
so.
yield. I mean, it says in there that he's literally made of stone, and that made me think. I mean, Edward Cullen is also described as being made of stone.
Mm-hmm.
So I say monster romance.
Yeah.
Why not?
Also, we somehow lost continents in this apocalypse war that happened. Like, at one point he refers to there as being, 5 continents or something? And I'm like, well, how did that happen? Or is it just like a Pangea situation where they drifted apart?
Yeah,
That's
it's like
a
we went from
crazy
7
thing
to
to say.
1. I'm like, but how? Where did the other 6 go?
I think this is like, well, he talks about at one point that if they had like a highborn versus highborn, just like 1v1 battle, that it would take out entire cities. Like, he's like, I could do it, no problem. I could kill all of you, but like, you're the only one keeping me sane. But this is my issue when, like, I had this same thought when during, what is it, Akamath, they're describing like how strong Amryn is. They're like, she could take out whole cities. Mm-hmm. So like, you got, like, that's too strong for the world that we're in right now. So you just have to like touch everything like you're touching like a like an ant.
Also, there's a big difference between destroying a city and like destroying the bedrock on which that city is built.
True. But if you're having everyone who's strong enough to destroy a whole city, then and they're all going to war together, would that not equal destroying a continent? Math. Tabitha.
Sure.
Just yell math at us.
Uh-huh.
Girl math, if you will.
He also talks about the destruction that he individually has caused in his long life and is like, do you still think I'm hot? I told you how many people I killed. Please show me your boobs. She decides to go ahead and fuck him. Mm-hmm. She thinks, oh, it's been so long since I've been with anyone. Like, she's not getting fingered left and right every day. As they undress, they talk some more about how dominions are created from the earth, and then she blows him. His dick tastes sugary.
Again, I'm sorry. This is a monster romance.
Just gross.
I mean,
like, what kind of sugary? Like, are we talking like sugar, like white sugar, or like the sugar of fruit? I don't know. It just like it's like funnel cake to me. It sounds like.
I mean,
it just gross.
My thought was that's going to cause an infection.
Yeah. Yes.
So then he makes her finger herself, and when she finishes, says, "That's my girl."
And here we are at fingering number 5.5.
So eventually they both come and they go to bed, but still no penetration.
Well, technically there is penetration, but no P in V penetration. Or really P in any orifice penetration. Did she blow him yet?
No, she did, because it's just...
Yeah, his dick tastes sugary.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah,
So
just no P in V or A penetration.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma.
You're welcome.
She wakes up alone and encounters Grady trying to pick the lock to the bedroom because she's been in there sleeping until noon and he was worried. She shares the info about her deal with Thorn and that the Iron Knights are being led by a Kylestia.
I love the pause to look at the pronunciation guide every time.
Every time I second guess myself. And allied with a highborn princess. He is unmoved. He still loves the Iron Knights. They talk about the word starborn being used to refer to certain people, including Callista. She goes to Maven, the old servant who bathes and dresses the courtiers, whatever the fuck you want to call these women who live here, who is also Claude's grandmother, we find out.
Yeah, that was
It
random.
is really weird.
The lineage is super complicated. I didn't bother to write it down. Callista asks her what starborn means. It gets a long rambling answer, but basically it's a mortal made divine, and that the prince has come for, quote, what is his.
Ooh, I wonder what that could mean.
Heimel interrupts them and is suspicious of their conversation, so she lies and says she was just getting Maven a drink. Later, she is wandering in the garden and pondering why, when she thinks about belonging to Thorn, her intuition responds positively. He shows up and chats her up. Some stuff about being highborn, how Kylestias are treated, yada yada. At one point, he just like pokes her in the boob. They're so weird about boobs in this book.
Yeah, it feels very like middle school, high school. Like, I'm obsessed with boobs. Just so much casual boob touching, nipple plucking. It just is always happening.
He asks her to dance, and she says that she's never danced, which I call bullshit. She's lived in a nonstop party house for like years at this point. But anyway, they dance and it's super sexy. Apparently his pecs brush the tips of her breasts through her clothes, and that feels good.
Yes.
I was dying at this scene. I was laughing. They're in the middle of a forest and they're basically grinding. She like talks about how their hips are swaying and no music at all. It's just some high school dance in a sweaty gym foreplay bullshit. Like, but I loved it.
Suddenly, her intuition tells her to run, but in like a sexy predator and prey way. So she runs.
To quote Maura, monster romance.
Mm-hmm. He catches her and they have sex with penetration. She's mentioned ridges on his dick several times now, and I really wanted a better explanation of what that means.
It just means he's a monster. I
Ribbed
don't know what
for
more
her
we need.
pleasure. I'll send you some photos. Oh, also more not confirmation in this. She says, I felt him swelling, felt that knot at my opening as he pumped into me. But also very important, no like actual knotting, if you will. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know, you should just Google omegaverse again comma, knot/knotting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alpha, those things.
Also, apparently he has to pull out because coming inside would drive her mad. Oh my God. That just sounds like stuff that an overconfident guy would say in bed while the woman tried not to laugh.
Yeah, I mean, an aphrodisiac overdose. So where my mind immediately went was just like, can they microdose her until she gets used to it? Is that where we're headed?
So then I suggested that maybe this is playing into the sex pollen trope, which again is something you can Google.
I fucking hate the sex pollen trope.
It's so weird that it's so prevalent.
It is. And it's so stupid every time. It's like, I can kind of buy it when it's like within, I mean, not sex pollen, but you could say maybe it's like omegaverse spreading heat like adjacent, but it just comes on so sudden I can't get into it. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing in reality currently that works like that. Like oysters aren't that great. Oh, also if they worked like how everyone acts. I have a theory as to why he pulled out, but like not because his cum was like gonna override her or whatever, but why he didn't maybe, not her, if you will. I can either explain now or when it becomes relevant to the story, and it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
He takes her back to his room and services her all night. He says he is leaving for a couple of days for war business.
Also, he asks her on a date. Like, he's like,
so cute.
When I come back, will you go to dinner with me? And she's like, oh, good job practicing consent, son. Like, lol.
She visits Claude and asks if she is a Kylestia. Did I say that right? Kylestia, yeah. He says he doesn't know because she doesn't have blue eyes like all Kylestia do. How Aryan. But that she definitely is something because of her powers. He tells her he can't explain what Starborn is, but she needs to tell Thorne that they met at the orphanage when she was a kid. While she frets about telling Thorne they met before, Grady shows her that Heimel is secretly meeting with Prince Rainier of Primvera. She runs to tell Claude and lockpicks her way into his chambers, but he is not there. And suddenly, the book we're reading remembers that she gets visions of stuff. So she has a vision of death. Like, it seems like the entire court is being slaughtered at the upcoming religious holiday, quote-unquote, feasts. The feasts have been mentioned several times throughout this book. I think they're, like a seasonal holiday that are just like vaguely a religious pretense to have more orgies.
Yeah. I thought the first party when she was like almost fingered was the feast until like way too late. And then they started talking about the feast again. And I was like, oh, so this is the orgy. Got it. Mm-hmm.
First, she goes to Naomi and tells her about the vision, but lets herself get distracted talking about sex with Thorne first, which is crazy.
Listen, if you got dicked down like she did, you would be telling your best friend. Like, you would be like, listen, this can wait for later. The party isn't starting until 6. We got at least 2 hours to get through every position we went through. I got to talk about the ridges. I got to talk about the knot, the crazy dancing. It was hot, girl.
Yeah, it's like, do weird penises take precedent over we're all dying in an orgy?
Yes.
So she tells Naomi about her sister not living till the end of the season to basically force her to leave. Naomi agrees to go, but is obviously angry that she withheld information. She goes to Grady, who, of course, insists on staying with her, and she insists on staying because of Thorne. She then goes to Claude's study and finds Heimel at his desk. He says he doesn't know where Claude is and isn't concerned. She tells him about the vision, why though, and that the feast should be canceled.
I feel like this was like a last-ditch effort to get him to believe her because
But he's such a shit.
He didn't. Did he know about her like powers?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
He says no way, and also good news, the Prince of Primavera is joining their feast celebration. Is everyone kind of blasé about Callista's vision?
Yeah.
Like, Naomi leaves, but she has to force her hand telling her about her sister. Grady's like, I guess we'll see. And, like, guys, she saw everyone in this house dead.
Yeah, it is very, who was that person in Greek myth? I can't remember. Cassandra. It's very Cassandra.
Yeah. I did not study classics in college.
Well, here I am with my class history telling you this is very Cassandra of her. But
Cassandra had like a curse that she would always be able to foretell the truth, but nobody would ever believe her. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So, if this were my life and I was trapped in orgy land where people may or may not be down with it, and someone told me we were all dying in an orgy I had to be a part of for religious reasons, I would probably just embrace death.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like passing away while you're sleeping and passing away while you're getting dick down.
Yeah.
I feel like are equally peaceful.
Yeah. I was going to say this sounds like a terrible place to live and I would rather die,
Yeah,
but you also have a good point.
Thank you.
She's at this feast. Claude is still missing. She wanders the grounds nervously. Then her intuition tells her that the bad thing is happening now, and she yells at everybody to get inside. Nymeres begin to attack everyone at the party, and it gets really gory really fast.
Yeah.
Callista is getting jostled by the crowd and becomes overwhelmed by everybody else's panicked and dying thoughts. Grady finds her and helps her to focus. They try to help people further into the mansion to hide, but in the fray, only 2 people follow them. A fellow courtesan named Allison and some random dude named Milton. She then has a vision that Allison is going to die.
I kind of love the like trying to change fate is futile bit of this right here, because she originally thought in her vision that Allison was actually Naomi and she forced her way to save her. I mean, I think she still saved her, but like the girl who was supposed to die still ended up dying.
So as they're hiding, her intuition tells her to peek out onto the lawn. First, they can see that Primavera in the distance is burning. Then she sees a bunch of Rays on horseback. Rays are mortals with their souls removed, so you can use them sort of like zombie soldiers, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Then she sees a highborn, Lord Samriel. Samriel? Okay. It took me a moment to remember who this guy was, but he was the one who visited the orphanage with Thorn in the first chapter.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
She runs and she kills a Nymere. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nymere with her Lunia dagger.
And she does it like scary competently, which is, I think, supposedly surprising to literally everyone. And I think it also
she like spins and ducks under the arm and stuff.
Yeah, even though she had like no assassin training, she becomes
has,
like the best assassin out of any.
And she would definitely beat Selena Sardathian at a fight at this point.
And again, my crazy theory, I have one as to why, but I'm going to explain it later.
So Milton hides. She tells Allison to hide, but the highborn she saw finds her and starts breaking her bones to lure Callista out. It works, but Grady follows her and is immediately disarmed. Allison is killed by a Nymere, of course. Samriel and Prince Rohan came looking for Callista, but it's not really clear why yet. But Heimel is there, working with the invading highborn and assures them that she has powers, even if she doesn't have blue eyes. She only agrees to do what they want if they spare Grady. They tell her that they will keep her safe from Thorn, who has apparently a specific reason to want to kill her. Samriel takes her to her room, and she tells him everything, including that she met him in Thorn when she was a kid, and that she hasn't told Thorn. He lays it all out for her. Apparently, Dominions are meant to be bonded to mortal starborns called Inserafs? Niceroffs?
I think it's Niceroffs.
Niceroffs.
Is it on the list?
No, it's not.
Great.
Niceroffs.
Or Naceroffs.
I'm going to go with Naceroffs.
Yeah.
They are what allow highborn to feel love and compassion, which is thus obviously both a strength and a weakness.
I'm just checking to make sure if this is what my crazy theory is. Yeah. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
been ready.
Evil laugh. Okay, so first they're like, if the "you complete me" line was like a mating bond trope, kind of. Like, I think this is why her and Thorne have these weird moments where, you know, maybe he like projected his thoughts to her when she was, you know, young, but it was on accident. And then that's why she became a super assassin, because they say like he's going to become more empathetic, more weak because he's around her. That's why she has to die. And what's the line that they say? They say like, oh, here it is.
Yeah, but she hasn't taken his cum yet.
No, but almost, but almost. So they say it's a weakness and a strength. Like, he's going to become weak and she's going to become strong, right? And then later on in this conversation, Lord Samriel is explaining all this, and he's like, well, usually everyone, like, if, you know, you're going to keep this person and not kill them, you get bonded at birth. And she's like, are there other ways to bond? And he's like, yeah, but that'll never happen. What if it's nodding? And
Probably.
they're officially bonded. And then what if, even worse, he has to like mate bite her?
So I was just reading these, oh god, what was it called? It was a Lexi Ryan novel, and it was basically like Akatar, but no, they're mating because it's like the humans in the phase mate, and the only way that they can get this mating bond to take place is to constantly be touching. Yeah. And some of them choose to do this through just constantly having sex until the mating bond snaps into place.
Like, maybe I read
unnecessary.
Yeah. Maybe I read too much omegaverse, but like, you know, when mates, true mates, if you will, are like near each other, their pheromones are like more, I don't know, like potent.
You just did that with your full chest.
I went through a phase of reading a lot of Raylo fan fiction, and like the top fan fiction is all omegaverse. So I just dove right in. It was pandemic. It was lockdown. I had a lot of free time, guys. Okay, I needed something to comfort me. So, but like you're there, you know, as you spend more time with this person, you start like smelling like them more often and stuff. And maybe this is just like spend too much time in that world, but maybe it's like that where he starts picking up on her traits, she starts picking up on his traits, but Makes sense. Like through the magic of angels or whatever bullshit this is.
Well, I think we all agree this is a very omegaverse coded novel.
Yeah, I mean, it has a knot in it.
Yeah, the knot is definitely going to come into play.
If he becomes a wolf, then it's definitely omegaverse, but maybe this is all just,
I mean, it's definitely some soulmate shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Samriel says that what he's going to do is he's going to take her to King Yoris.
Because she's an unbonded Nyseraph, apparently, which is highly desirable for some reason.
I don't have a theory about that.
Yeah, I have no theory either.
I can't figure out what they want them for.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he doesn't have one, and he wants one for himself, but also
they're not supposed to have them.
Yeah.
My other... Oh, sorry,
no, you go ahead.
Oh, my other thought was, maybe it's because, like, remember Prince Thorne is, or Virus, whatever, fuck it. But Thorne is wow, I was way off. I forgot a letter in there. But maybe it's because they need to, like, control him because he's supposed to be, like, the bad one. Okay. So maybe he's, like, the rebel prince. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll find out in, like, 3 years. She's not writing this next book for a while because she has to finish, like, 2 others. So in a decade, we'll... she's choosing not to write it yet because she wrote this one and I think one of the From Blood and Ash books at the same time, and she said she was like, it was hard to live in both worlds at once.
Fair.
So that's why she's like writing one and then a different one, not simultaneously. So sad.
Heimel comes into Callista's room for dumb plot reasons and she attacks him. While they argue and he talks about the deal that he made with the Highborn to rule Archwood, she gets a vision and laughs at him. Lord Arian?
Yeah, one of
Arian?
The kidnapper.
Yeah. Aaron.
Aaron.
Lord Arian comes in and removes her glamour, remarking that it was probably the prioress of the orphanage she was at who put it on her all those years ago. He thanks Heimel for his service and snaps his neck, fulfilling the vision that Callista just had.
Karma's a bitch, Heimel.
So Callista and Grady are lying together on a cot in an inn as the Highborn have sex in the rooms all around them. They've been like traveling for a couple days now.
God, can you imagine that? I had a moment where I had to sit there and think about this and go like, dear God.
Ugh. I feel like it's got to smell so bad always.
But their cum is sweet. So
Oh,
maybe it
true.
smells like baking cinnamon roll.
Like a bakery.
You know, yeasty and sweet.
Oh god.
Yeah, because what does their sweat smell like?
Mm-hmm.
Probably yeasty. Ugh.
He tries to convince her to leave, meaning leave both right now, like escape, and stop fucking around with Thorn. He compares it to an affair that he had with a married man years ago, and I'm just happily they finally said that this guy was gay here in the penultimate chapter. Like,
Right.
I really just wanted them to clarify that, because books like this often have a love triangle. So they kept like insisting that it wasn't between Callista, Grady, and Thorn, but it wasn't until now that they gave me, I guess, just reason to think it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like at least there wasn't a love triangle, but I would have appreciated more explanation about Grady near the beginning rather than just like, oh, we're friends. He doesn't like to watch me have sex with other people because he has thoughts and feelings about that.
Like, I understand that heterosexual people of different genders can be friends. It's just that this happens so much in these kind of books that there's a love triangle that I would have liked it cleared up sooner.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm going to sound really homophobic after sounding super ableist earlier. I'm not either of those
Go
things.
ahead. Get us canceled.
Yes, working her hardest.
But I agree. Whenever there's like a male friend and then like a male love interest, like in these sort of books, it's always a love triangle. And this was the one time where I was like, they made it so clear, like Grady and her feel icky about like picturing each other in sexual ways, that they were just going to let them be friends. And opposite sex friends can happen sometimes.
It is
Just-
possible.
Yeah, but like it's rare, but
Well,
it's
like-
possible. But like
It
could have been written into this book, and then they were like, no, he's gay. All for it. Like, let's all have a gay best friend. But
It's like I said in Fourth Wing, when her best friend is made to be interested in women.
Yeah.
It's a way to show that she's not competition.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
most of the time in these books, these kind of books like this, when there is a very, very close friend, they have to do something to indicate that it's not going to be a love triangle, or else it is a love triangle.
I get it. But just like never let them have actual sexual feelings for each other or like romantic feelings for each other, and then let people just write that fan fiction if they want, you know? Go on.
Sorry, I was almost going to say like Hermione and Draco, but I didn't want to
Hey,
drag
No,
that.
call me
no,
out. Call
no.
me out. Call me out. Also, not to give J.K. Rowling any sort of like props, in one interview she said she thought about making them a love interest because their dichotomy was like
Yeah.
they have similar themes, if you will.
No, I could totally tell that she wanted to do that originally.
Yeah, and then she fucking put him with Ron, and he's like the
Right.
most boring ass
Well-
redhead ginger
Yeah, because
loser.
I liked Ron.
here's the deal though.
Of course you did. I'm
Oh
just
my
kidding.
god, Tabitha.
Did you really?
I like Ron for the same ways I like Xander.
Well, okay, I like Xander, but Ron. Okay, listen. The reason that Hermione wouldn't have happened in the books is because it would have taken too much freaking work to get
It
them
would have.
together.
Yeah.
So it was easier just to shove her off with Ron and
She
be
could
done
have
with
put
it.
like a novella in there.
Yeah.
Hermione did settle for Ron. I'll say
She
that.
did.
Yes,
she
she
totally
did.
did. But the reason you can tell is because she gets like Draco's son and Hermione's daughter together in the sequel.
Oh yeah, I know.
And so you're like,
Mm-hmm.
there you have it.
Yeah. Cop out.
All right. Later, they wake up because there is a whole bunch of screaming going on throughout this town. They separate her and Grady because they think they are being followed at this point. Arian leads her. Arian?
Ron.
Aaron.
I was like, surely it's not Arian. Did I not catch that the first time?
Oh, like Arian, like
these
the
giant
blonde
white
eye.
blonde angels. Is one named Arian?
There's one named Arian. Yeah.
Maybe
Arian?
Arian.
she doesn't.
Arion.
Maybe it's on
Arian.
purpose, and we'll
Arian.
find out later.
I hope.
Conspiracy theorist is coming out in me.
Aaron leads her out of the inn where everyone is dead, explaining that one of the highborn got a little violent. It freaked out the humans, so the prince, quote unquote, got mad. So now like 3/4 of the town is dead.
Yeah, but remember, not her prince, the other one.
Yeah, the other prince.
Yeah, the bad one.
Important to note.
Mm-hmm.
She tells him, fuck you. So he mind controls her to nearly walk onto a sword, as a threat. Then they ride off together, and she frets about how she should have used her powers for more political reasons, and whoa, it's her fault that so many people are dead, which is dumb. It's not really.
Yeah, the threats of sexual violence at this point are super descriptive. I feel like, was that necessary? Did we need to have that?
No.
Which, like, not to be kind of callous on this topic, but wouldn't rape be ineffective for the needs of the highborn? The feeding on pleasure thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about
It would be
this.
ineffective, but also I think rape just generally would exist no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Maybe that's like a meal that's real bad for you.
Yeah, right.
like chips or something.
Yeah.
Also, can all highborn mind control people or only some? Like, I feel like
I think this guy has like more magic than the other ones. Like he
Okay.
does witchier stuff.
yeah, this feels like not to compare everything to Twilight, but every I literally do it.
Hey, I haven't talked about Outlander in this episode yet.
Proud
Oh
of
no.
you. Oh. Is it coming? But in Twilight, everyone has like their own unique power,
Yes.
or some of them do. Maybe that's like this. Because Thorn has a special power that I didn't notice I noticed until you pointed it out. You're gonna get to it.
Okay. Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
So they pass through the Witchwood, which is where the Dominions are born, I suppose. I didn't really get into it earlier, but they like grow in the ground.
They do.
Like,
Yeah.
like potatoes.
They
Yeah,
do
they do like
potatoes.
potatoes.
They're basically like a sentient rock-like potato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine that.
Delicious.
Just imagine.
A sweet potato, though.
Sweet
Remember?
potato.
Sweet
Yeah.
potato.
So then suddenly. I was just checking the time.
Need my pants.
I'm good. We can go.
Okay. Go on.
Then suddenly, Aaron knocks them both off of the horse as an arrow lands between his eyes. Is he dead? She can't tell. She watches as a bunch of ravens coalesce into a man and suddenly has a vision of Thorn killing her, just like Samriel said would happen. She runs, but he catches her, and Thorn says that he will always catch her. Apparently, he is ravens.
I literally didn't notice this until you pointed that out. But again, maybe it's like Twilight. They all have their unique little powers. Also, like, do you think in the next book, like, he's gonna kill her or he's gonna like fuck her some more?
Of course he's gonna
He's
fuck her
gonna
more.
fuck her
I
some
know.
more. I mean, he has a knot. We don't know why the knot is there. We need to figure that
yeah.
out.
He better use it.
Yeah,
soon.
they're not gonna
No.
take away all of that setup they did
No.
for the knot. Think about the knot.
Also, no, go ahead.
No, like, I mean, I think the other angel people telling her that he's going to come and kill her and that we're saving you, really.
Yeah.
It's just them saying what they're going to say to try to get her to come freely, right?
Right.
Like, he wants her back because he's connected to her. He just
Yeah.
doesn't know why. And we're going to find out why. He's going to
In, like,
figure it
3
out.
years.
Yeah.
So you know how like in the first book of every series, if they're gonna have sex, they have sex like maybe once,
yeah.
and then it just gets like more and more sexier.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily sexier in the term sexier, but like more sexier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It usually moves from like fondling to penetration.
Yeah. How much sex do you think they're gonna have in the next book?
Oh my god,
Or,
this
like-
was basically erotica.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. So I mean I loved it, but how like, or do you think they're just gonna get freakier? Like
Okay, so she was fingered 5.5 times in this book alone.
Mm-hmm.
They had the
we didn't count how many
PNV
times they
sex.
had sex. Was it only that once in the woods?
there
Well,
was
they had it once in the woods, and then he serviced her.
Yeah, but
remember?
Yeah,
but they
one night.
faded to black. That
right,
they didn't describe
right.
it
So
all.
one PNV, 5.5 fingering. So
One
I'm gonna
blowjob.
one blowjob.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's got to equal like what?
I don't
He
think
never
ever
ate her
went
out.
down on her.
I was just thinking that.
Man, maybe they're gonna do that in book 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I hope so, because like
That's how it gets
I'm disappointed
sexier.
in him.
Either
now.
that or like anal.
Which to me, it starts to go back down to less sexy.
See, yeah, I kind of feel like, yeah, he definitely needs to eat her out in the second book.
Oh, for
Otherwise,
sure.
I'm not. I will put the brakes on this series
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that doesn't happen.
Next book,
Oh,
JLA.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
eat her
didn't
out.
realize this was a romantasy book for men. So anyway, that's the end of the first book. We just ended right there with them in this wood.
Yeah, it's a very
Totally,
intense end plot.
yeah, like cliffhanger ending for sure.
So for the wrap up, I will say that this book did not need this much sex.
No.
Really hard to balance the hardcore erotica part with the political stuff. People would be discussing important political maneuvers while pinching her nipples, and I'd be really distracted. The consent issue was, I just still feel really complicated. Like, I never knew how okay to be with what was happening.
Yeah.
But as for the prose, it was a pretty easy read. I think it was a fun read. They shared pretty good descriptive passages. Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Yeah. So this kind of did feel like someone in the porn industry wrote a fantasy. I
For sure.
guess.
A
Yeah.
good fantasy.
Like, yeah, it was pretty good fantasy, and also it felt like someone in the porn industry wrote it. And I mean, that's not bad. That's not good. It's just an objective fact, I think. But I don't know what's going on with the Aryan Angels or why the city burned at the end. Really, like all that was like this stuff is happening really fast right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ride this. So. but really, I think the point of this book, aside from all the political stuff, is just like how many times can you finger the main character and still have a book that gets published by Tor? Because that's who published this. It was like their new imprint. They have like a Romantasy imprint now, because of course they do. Good for you, I guess.
Yeah,
this
Tor
is where we're going. Yeah.
I have no idea who they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tor's
just a major publisher.
Oh,
Tor's
okay,
a
cool.
huge publisher. Yeah.
Of like fantasy science
So it's
fiction.
it's
stuff.
surprising that they.
Very well known.
I will say my first thought was Tor. I thought you were more respectable than this.
So Tor published, like, they've been around for decades. They've published a lot of really big science fiction in like the 80s that you would know.
Got it.
But also, of course, they're still around publishing like even more stuff.
Got it.
You would know them.
Okay.
But anyway, this is published in a new imprint that I think is mainly for like basically fantasy erotica, which is like good for you, Tor.
I'm down.
Okay, yeah. So, but no, I agree that I thought this was really readable, and I didn't find it at all boring. This is a little fun romp. It definitely is more inventive along the ignore climate change at your peril stories that I've ever read in my life. But you know what? I'm here for it. So long as he goes down on her in the second book, I'll keep reading.
Yeah, that I didn't notice that. I might have to take off half a star on on a Storygraph.
Only 4 stars, because like.
Oh, I rated it 5. I loved it. Like, I mean, it was definitely absurd how much sex was in it for a first book, as you know, I explained before, but like, like kind of some of it was plot relevant. Kind of. Like, he was going to die at the beginning if she didn't like get naked and bathe with him. So, you know.
Well, the like I said, I read the blurb on the back of the book and thought, oh my God, the blurb is this. She lives by her intuition. He feeds on her pleasure. And I just thought, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
But I do think we could have had like 2 less fingerings, at least 1.5 less on paper. I will say it felt very unique compared to some of the other ones that we've read. It didn't read to me like a fairy tale retelling or a fairy tale like fan fiction erotica.
For sure.
I don't know the Bible that well, so
oh my God, is this like Bible erotica almost?
I wouldn't know. I like failed PSR.
No, but like I agree completely. This isn't like any more derivative fairy nonsense that I've been reading lately. Yeah.
And again, like who would write climate change this way? Like no one. And it was easy to read. I wasn't bored. I wasn't annoyed at either of the main characters for like making just stupid, like, I can't tell my best friend any of this, or like, you're lying to me bullshit. Like, it was fine.
Yeah, I felt like there were times when she was playing a little too hard to get with Thorn, and I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But no, she was totally ready to share any of this information with multiple people in this house. I like that in a person.
Me too. The only person I was maybe the most annoyed with as a character was Claude. Like, he definitely was supposed to be a, I don't know, kind of like drunk college frat boy. I had a neighbor who used to like, he threw like parties until like 6 a.m. I was like convinced he worked night shift somewhere. My roommate and I would be getting ready for work like in the morning and brushing our teeth, and you could like hear just like the club music playing next door. And he got so drunk he like burnt a steak in his oven and like almost set like our whole apartment building on fire. Like, that's how I read Claude here. So I'm annoyed with him because of that. And I'm
interested to see what happens with him. He's still missing at the end of this book.
They really write him out of the rest of this book.
Yeah, they
so
do.
we don't
Who cares
really know
about
what happened
him?
to him.
Yep.
All right. So to finish up, who do we think we are in this book? I said for myself, I think I'm a Grady. He's sensible and seems to hate the wealthy and powerful. What does that say? That it seems to be a pattern that I identify with the killjoy in these books.
I'm not going to say anything. Tabitha routinely yells at me in these recordings or post recordings.
She's very fidgety.
I can't help it. It's just who I am as a person. I'm unmedicated.
Also, I don't yell at her. I just look at her.
No, she doesn't. She just has
it's the most withering looks that you can get.
Yeah, very expressive eyes.
So, okay,
Maura?
Person I am. I, in my continuing quest to find inner quiet, I really like those floating sentient plants. I feel like that's my vibe.
Yeah, that's such a vibe. Yeah. They just like float around. Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like that's who I'm meant to be, is a floating sentient plant in this universe. Like, just leave me alone. I'm floating over
I love
here.
that for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't pick anyone because the 2 normal characters, I would say, for this world that we currently live in reality, you already picked the normal people. So if I pick anyone else, that makes me a nymphomaniac.
A sentient plant is a normal person.
I mean,
if you say An infomaniac. That's like 70% of the characters in this book.
You could be the horse that she rides around.
I did think about that, but I was like, I'm not a horse though. Am I? What are horses like? I didn't spend a lot of time with them.
I think they're just generally peaceful, kind of.
I would never describe myself as
maybe
peaceful.
you're the blacksmith who went out for a night on the town and came back and like, why is there blood all over my
That honestly
I like
would
that.
happen.
I like that for you.
All right.
All right, so that is the Fall of Ruin and Wrath. Thank you for joining us today.
Yep, thanks.
You. Yep, and we hope to see you next time.
Yep,
Well,
definitely.
we don't see you.
Yeah, listen to us.
Yeah, technically. Bye.
Bye.